How to deal with grief. It's Kute here, nationally best-selling author of You Are the One and the Magic of Surrender. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube video below. How do we deal with grief as human beings? There is no escaping grief in this human experience. Whether you're black, white, green, orange, tall, short, Christian, atheist, we all will experience the feeling of grieving. That sense of deep loss, the loss of losing someone you love. Someone you love passes away or dies. That feeling of the loss of a friendship or a relationship and the deep grief that comes from that. Grief can also come from the loss of some part of yourself, the loss of a dream, the loss of an identity, the loss of a job. Any loss will stir the feeling of grief inside you. As human beings, we're often not taught how do we deal with our feelings? How do we deal with the feeling of grieving? And so what we tend to do when we feel grief is we tend to numb it. We tend to distract ourselves from it. We drink it away, we sex it away, we drug it away, we social media it away, we work it away, we shop it away, we busy it away, we pill it away, whatever it is, so that we don't have to feel the grief. But in not feeling the grief, what we have to understand is it doesn't go anywhere. All feelings that we don't deal with will deal with us. Those feelings that we don't feel fully and let go of will end up expressing in unhealthy ways. There is no way to avoid dealing with it. Eventually, we will have to deal with it. And when we don't deal with our grief, that energy, that unprocessed energy will stay stuck in our psyche, in our bodies, in our physiology, in our nervous system, in our hearts. We will carry that into the future. It will prevent our ability to feel joy, feel alive. It will inhibit our ability to be fully open to new possibilities because we're still carrying the unresolved grief and pain from the past. All feelings that aren't dealt with at some point will end up dealing with you. When we don't deal with the grief, when we don't deal with our pain, what happens is you will tend to manifest, that pain will tend to manifest in your life in some way. It may manifest in the form of emotional pain, as in depression, sadness, heaviness. It may manifest in some form of physical ailment, temporary, backache, a shoulder ache, a heartache. It may even manifest in some kind of long-term dis-ease, that the pain that you're not dealing with, the grief that you're not dealing with, is communicating through your body, through your unconscious in some way. All feelings that aren't felt fully will often end up expressing in unhealthy ways. As a human being, we avoid grief. We run from our grief. The reasons we often don't feel our grief fully is we're afraid that if I feel my grief fully, it will never end. It will last forever. If I feel my grief fully, it will be too much. It will be overwhelming. I won't be able to handle the depth of the grief I feel. And so we avoid it. If I feel my grief fully, one of the reasons we don't feel our grief is an unconscious survival mechanism, where if I don't feel my grief fully, I don't have to really acknowledge that maybe I've really lost someone. If I don't feel my grief fully, then I don't have to accept the reality that the relationship is over. So not feeling one's grief fully can be an avoidance, a denial of reality. Like if I don't acknowledge that my pet has died and feel my grief, then I can live in a kind of denial, and maybe it hasn't really happened, and I can then hold on to that person, hold on to the memory of that person as though they're here. but it just keeps us stuck in the past. And when we don't feel our grief fully and acknowledge it and let it go, a part of you will always remain back there. So it limits our ability to move forward in the future. Sometimes we don't allow ourselves to feel our grief fully as a spiritual bypass. We want to be in a high vibration. Law of attraction, high vibration. So, grief is a negative emotion. So let me suppress the grief, not deal with the grief. But we'll end up recreating situations as an unconscious impulse to deal with the grief. There are gifts in your grief. And the quickest way through your grief, the quickest way to let go of your grief, the quickest way to move beyond it into more openness, more light, is through it, is to feel it. And so if you're going through an experience where someone has died, if you're going through an experience where you've lost someone, something, a relationship, and your heart is broken, please know that no feeling lasts forever. The grief will be transitory. And all feelings that are fully felt with awareness. I'm not talking about wallowing in it. I'm not talking about being a victim to it, but all feelings that are fully felt with full intention and awareness begin to dissolve. Because all feelings have a natural cycle. Yet because we resist that cycle, we suppress it, we avoid it, the grief often never completes itself and we stay stuck there. All feelings remain present until fully felt with awareness. And so, if you're going through something, if you're going through a moment, it's so important that you remove the distractions and you give yourself the conscious, intentional, healthy time and space to grieve. Don't just bury yourself in work to avoid the death of your loved one. Don't just jump into a new relationship when your heart is still broken, still grieving over someone else as an avoidance. Because if you just jump into a new relationship, there'll be a part of your heart that isn't available because a part of you is stuck back there. And as a result, you enter a new relationship. Now a part of you is back there. Now all of you isn't here. You set yourself up for pain and suffering. And when this relationship ends, now less of you is here, and then we jump into another relationship and the cycle continues. Face your grief fully. Face it head on and trust the intelligence. Grief happens in stages. Grief has layers. So it doesn't simply dissolve at once. When you give yourself permission, I'm saying give yourself permission to feel the feeling of grieving fully. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean something's wrong. It takes great strength to feel your feelings. So create the spaces in your life. And it might be an hour in an evening or a couple of hours in an evening to just feel your grief fully and completely so that you can move through it and release it and complete it and open to more. When my mother died in 2017, there was deep grieving, there was profound grieving. And what I really allowed myself to do was just feel it fully. There would be waves of grief. And what I found happened is that when I felt it fully, my heart broke. It broke open. It broke open. And there was more love. And so it's through the grieving is the doorway and the portal to more love. And the degree to which you suppress the grieving is the degree to which you suppress the loving. The degree to which you suppress the negative feeling is the degree to which you suppress the positive feeling. The degree to which you suppress the grieving is the degree to which you also limit the joy, the bliss, the ecstasy, the sense of aliveness. You can't have one without the other. What have you not allowed yourself to grieve? Sometimes we don't even know that we haven't allowed ourselves to grieve something and we wonder why. Why do I not feel alive? Why do I not feel joy? These amazing things have happened. But a part of me is not feeling alive and joy because a part of your heart isn't fully available. What do you need to grieve? What do you need to mourn? What do you need to let go of? Give yourself permission. And so sometimes people often say to me, Kute, how do I grieve? Is there a step? I'm going to give that to you right now. Sometimes we think that we are feeling our feelings because all feelings fully felt will dissolve. All feelings fully felt will dissolve. And sometimes we think that we're feeling our feelings, but we're actually thinking, analyzing, judging our feelings rather than feeling them fully. So here's how you feel them. Take the label off of the grief. Don't even call it grief. See, feelings aren't good or bad. They're just feedback. They're just energy in motion. Take the label off of the grief. Don't even call it grief. Notice where you feel the energy of the grieving in your body as a sensation. No name, no label. Feel it as a sensation in your body. Then be with that sensation fully. Experience it fully without trying to get rid of it, without trying to push it away, without trying to stop it, without trying to do manipulate it. Feel it fully in your body. And follow the sensation and notice what is seeking to happen. When you're with the feeling fully and you follow that feeling and you notice what happens, you'll find that it has a cycle and it begins to complete itself and the feeling will dissolve. No feeling lasts forever. Feel your feelings fully. All feelings that you feel with full awareness will complete and dissolve. Grieving happens in stages, and grieving will open you to more loving. Folks, if you enjoyed today's short video, share this video with someone in your life that you feel needs it, and make sure you subscribe to this YouTube. Much love.